If you're hosting on Airbnb or Vrbo, you probably already know that there's a lot of data out there to help you guide pricing, cleaning fees, and cancellation policies, and so on. Have you ever wondered what other hosts do with that data? Like what kind of data they look at, how do they analyze it, and what kind of actionable steps come out of that analysis? Well, today I'm doing my weekly routine of just going through market metrics on my beach house Airbnb, and I thought, why not just take you along and show you what I do? This is my second Airbnb, and so I've learned a few things from my beginner mistakes, and now I think I've got a pretty solid system in terms of how I analyze data and do my pricing strategy. Make sure to stick around all the way through because I will be showing you some metrics of a saturated market, which is unfortunate for me, but is reality. And this is in the context of a looming recession. And I will be showing you how I navigate that data and how I use that to make informed business decisions. So usually after I log in, I go straight to the market dashboard. Go to the market dashboard, and this is built based on where the location of the house is, and you can make it whatever radius and whatever geography that defines your market. Since this is a beach house, I like to look at just a certain amount of listings near the beach area. I like that Pricelabs allow for this granularity. And also they have a tool to, like, if I only wanted to look at just the ones that are closest to the beach, that is an option. But usually I start up here on the revenue, and I scroll back to the last 30 days and I filter out based on size. Our house is a 5-bedroom house, and so I like to do 4 to 6 bedroom as a filter because we get any number of people from like a group of 6 up to like a group of 12. So this would be kind of the most comparable in the market for us. So for the last 30 days, 4 to 6 bedroom houses in that area made a estimated revenue of $4,700, which is down. And this makes sense because September was a rainy month, and that was also when Hurricane Ian hit. So it makes sense this is down from the summer season, which is the more occupied high season in the area. And then the occupancy is also down for those same reasons. Average daily rate was $377. Okay, this is lower than I thought. Number of bookings actually went up. This is interesting. Booking window is over a month. I think that's pretty consistent, and most people stay for 3 days. Usually these are weekend stays. And then the same number of active listings in the past month. All right, cool. Next, this map shows us where the listings are. Usually I don't dive too much into this, but if I was curious, I could kind of click through and see, all right, which kind of listing has what kind of revenue for the past year. Because a lot of these listings are new, like this one right here, like you can tell just because they only had 3 reviews, the revenue looks really low just because they haven't been active for a whole year. So I don't spend too much time on this map usually. And next is the listings and comp sets. I didn't build out specific comp sets because the number of listings change in the area often, and there's always new listings coming out, as I've learned. So spending time to build a comp set that's going to change in like a week or 2 is not really useful. What I did do in the beginning though, before I started, and as part of my initial setup, I looked through all of this information. You can download the whole Excel spreadsheet of all 14 pages of this. I'm not going to do this right now, but you can look through like each listing. It links to each listing, and you can look at what their calendar looks like, what terms they have, like when's their check-in, check-out time, what amenities they offer, and then kind of compare and truly sort out which one is the comparables list. And after narrowing it down to like, I don't know, I think I ended up having about 20 listings that were comparable. That helped me with my projections. Anyway, today we're not looking at the available listings. Instead, we're going to go straight to the market summary. So for average revenue, I like to look at, so the past month, September, about $5,000 compared to September of last year. The average revenue is over $6,000. So the average revenue per listing has gone down. And this could be supply or recession vibes. We don't know. Could be both or more. Or Hurricane Ian. All right, so overall, even in the summer seasons, July is 11, August is 6 versus last year July was 13 and August was 8. So overall comparing now, this season versus last season, generally listings are performing a bit worse in terms of revenue. ADR, let's see here. ADR September was 380 compared to last year. So the average daily rate that people are able to charge is a bit less this year versus last year. The occupancy is also lower, it looks like. So September was 44, and this September last year was 50s. And this is consistent for the summer months as well, 60s. Oh wow, 49 for August. That's pretty bad. Versus 60. So overall, all the metrics are down in this market. Median booking windows, let's see here. September was 17 days this year versus 29 days last year, but more people are booking last minute, which I think usually also translates to the lower revenue, just because usually prices are set lower as it becomes a little bit more last minute. Okay. Median length of stay seems very consistent for, okay, good to know. And then summary table, this is useful for just kind of gauging what the average daily rates are. It doesn't tell me enough information about, like, does this house have a pool? Like, is this a giant house, or like a house that they're calling 5 bedrooms but really it's a closet? So roughly for a 5-bedroom house, which is what we have, there are 24 listings charging 500-ish for their listed price. The book nightly price is similar to what the listed price is. So, all right, good to know. And as far as these outliers, like the $1,400 for a median booked price for the 6-bedroom house, just because there's only 9 of those, I think it's easy to skew the data. So I would bet this is like an outlier, super premium listing with a pretty nice pool and all other amenities. So I wouldn't worry about that. All right, supply and demand. I don't know why they always make you click on expanding the graphs. So let's see. So these charts have the average number of bookings, and each little bar is a 7-day period. And from what I can tell, average bookings have stayed kind of consistent, like about 1 booking, because this line is 1, right? This gray line is 1. It stayed fairly consistent, which tells me there is, even though there is more supply, there is enough demand to meet that supply, which is reassuring to some extent. And then active listings, this is what a saturated market looks like. Last year around this time, it was 80-ish listings, and now there's 142. So that's not quite double, but pretty close. We started early May, so at the time when we started, it was 120. Comparing now to then, that's still 20 more listings in the area. So yeah, that's a significant competition. So pricing trends-wise, that's Thanksgiving, that makes sense. December, that's Christmas, all that also makes sense. Halloween weekend, I think there's also some football game in the area. October 23rd. Okay, interesting. I don't know what to think of that. And then March of next year, that's spring break. Okay. This next graph is like my favorite, I think, of the whole thing. This shows the future occupancy in the gray shaded area, and then the pickup, which is bookings made in the last 30 days. Usually this is where I kind of play around for the most of my time. I like to narrow it down a little bit to say the upcoming couple months, like that. As you can see, this market is very much a weekend kind of market, going up and down on the weekends. All these all the peaks are weekends. And so for upcoming weekends, this current weekend is a relatively slower one. So yeah, usually the pattern goes that the upcoming weekend has the highest occupancy, and then the peaks go kind of slowly marching down as we get further and further away in time. But this is quite the opposite pattern. So this must just be a slower weekend in general. For whatever reason, that's fine. For us, this weekend is already filled. with kind of a questionable guest. I'm hoping I don't have to come back and do a story time on that guy. Anyway, so I'm not really considering these upcoming 3 weekends already because I know those are booked. Now, I know I have some spots in November weekends and December weekends, and so it's kind of good to see where we're at in terms of occupancy for those. This is roughly Thanksgiving, so really somewhere in the 40 to 60 range of occupancy coming up. But for the Black Line, that's what people have been booking for the past 30 days. So I know people are actively still looking and booking these weekends. Same for December. Most people are now actually, like, the majority of these early December weekends, which I believe are still open on my calendar, majority of that occupancy was booked within the last 30 days. So that's kind of promising, actually. It seems reasonable that my calendar is still open. Okay, so this is a good gauge of where we're at in the upcoming weeks. For future prices, this one I also like to scoot back to a more reasonable calendar. I'll include spring break on this. And then I usually like to add the median booked price, which shows up as a black line. And again, I'm not too worried about these November dates. Let's go straight to December, which is where some of my weekend openings are. So the shaded reddish, grayish area is what the median available set price is, but booked price is the black line. And so the booked price is hovering in the upper 300 range. So it's not very high. And I'm making a mental note that that's roughly the number, upper 300 and 400 kind of range. And this is actually just nightly rates, not with fees. So this is different from ADR. I had a whole long spiel about ADR versus nightly rate in my last video. You should check that out if you're confused. And let's see, I'm curious about spring break actually. March-ish. People are setting some insane prices. Look at that, $2,000. The median booked, though, is only $500. Interesting. What this tells me is for the majority of folks, they're not ready to drop a 4-digit number of cash on booking a house this far in the future. I'm sure some of the bookings are higher priced for that spring break week. This makes me think of people's general concerns as it relates to recession and kind of maybe let's wait and see how things go before we book it kind of vibe is what I'm gathering. Moving on, day of the week occupancy. This is not news to me. Stays very consistent that weekends are more booked versus weekdays. Generally, if the weekdays are booked, it's because someone's staying for a whole week. Very few people, at least in my experience, comes to the beach house for like Monday through Wednesday. We've had maybe 2-3 guests that did that. Not very many. And then day of the week price factor that is consistent with the occupancy. Obviously, weekend is higher. So this, I'm kind of just showing you it's there, but I don't usually do anything with this information on a week-to-week basis. Length of stay and booking window trends. October, starting roughly here. So this is the upcoming weekend, and it has that dip in the peak. This is just not a good weekend for some reason. What this tells me is roughly how the spread is in terms of number of days people are booking. And I use this information mainly to see what's reasonable for my minimum night stay restrictions. I like to keep a higher minimum for far out days. My thinking is that if someone is willing to look farther in advance and book farther in advance, they're likely willing to pay more, and also they're likely looking for a longer period of time. And I'd like to lock in like at least 3-4 day kind of weekend versus if it's closer and it's still unbooked, I would be more open to someone staying 1 night or 2 nights. So if I like to set 3-4 day minimum for far out days, or even 5 or 6 days for even farther out, I think. So that seems fairly reasonable based on the pattern. 5 to 6 days is not a really common range to book, but I would consider it as 5+. So like this peach colored thing plus all the gray colors, and most of the far out bookings, actually the majority of far out bookings beyond Thanksgiving or so are at least 5 days. So I feel comfortable continuing that night minimum night restriction. by going 3+ on the minimum night stay, I would still capture most of the crowd that is booking thus far. So, alright, that's pretty good. Probably won't change my minimum night stays based on this information. Now, length of stay versus booking window. I actually don't use this very often. In a sense, it shows similar information to the previous graph in terms of like what percentage of bookings are month-long stays, week stays, and whatever number of nights. And I already got that information from the previous graph, so usually I skip this. Amenities wise, not a whole lot changes on a week-to-week basis. Like, so the light pink are the percentage of bookings versus the red is percentage of listings that have that amenity. And where there is a discrepancy is it usually indicates people like that amenity and bookings that have it, or listings that have it, are booked more frequently. This is not news to me. Everyone has Wi-Fi. People like having a hairdryer. And looking through this list, I have everything. So nothing really for me to do, I guess. Yay for me. And then desired amenities is really another iteration of that previous graph. I don't allow pets. Yeah, I think on average it's still risky, but this is very tempting. It seems like a lot of people enjoy bringing their pets. Let's think about that. Put a pin on that one. Iron, we don't have an iron. We haven't had requests for an iron. It's a big like family beach house, so who's like people are not coming for an interview. I don't know what the iron would do. You don't iron swim stuff? And some of these I wonder if it is just a marker of a well-stocked house. Like people aren't necessarily seeking out the iron, but a well-stocked house happens to have an iron. And so this is more of an association, not cause and effect. Maybe. Okay. Well, I'm not about to go get an ironing board and iron. No new information here. I have all the other things. Policies and fees. All right, this is usually interesting. Weekly discounts. So most listings don't offer very much of a discount. And the discrepancy on these bars would say people like having a discount. I mean, that's not mind-blowing stuff. I think my discount is somewhere in the maybe 10 to 15 range for a week. You know, it might be good to revisit that because I keep having people ask for discounts. This was not my experience with the tiny house. There were only like a total of 2 out of, say, 50 people that asked for a discount, and I said no both times. And that was never really an issue. But now here, either it's the beach house population or it's just the times we're in economically. Like majority of bookings are now asking about discounts. And sometimes I don't have a good system. I sometimes give them, and I haven't actually had bad issues with anyone who's asking for a discount. It just seems like people are now habitually throwing it out there, at least in this market. So maybe like remove the built-in discount and just offer it when people ask. I don't know. But I think when you do offer a certain percentage discount, you get that little strike-through font on Airbnb. So I like that piece of it too. I'm not sure. This is more getting into the psychology of what appeals more to the consumer. I'm going to make note of that in my head and think more about it in a bit. Monthly discount wise, actually a lot of listings don't offer monthly discount. And this bar chart only considers monthly bookings, like bookings where a monthly discount would apply. That's interesting. I've only had one person stay a month, and so this is not that common of a scenario. Because it's a 5-bedroom house, a month at my house would be like pricey. Alright, I don't think I need to think too hard about the monthly discount aspect. Cleaning fees. Our cleaning fee is $300 just because of how big the house is. And so it's reassuring that this doesn't seem to be a deterrent for bookings, at least in this market. Cancellation policies, we have a strict cancellation policy. And from what I can tell, this is actually quite middle ground. When you hover above the bars, it tells you the nightly rates, or the base nightly price, broken down based on their cancellation policy. And it seems like the more expensive bookings trend towards having a higher or stricter cancellation policy. I think that's fair. I think that makes sense. Based on this, I feel pretty comfortable staying in the strict policy because we are a bigger house. So within the 4 to 6 bedroom market, we should be on like middle to higher end at least. And so yeah, I'm keeping that. Strict and super strict seems to be a deterrent though. The red bar is taller than the pink bar. So probably not gonna do that. Base number of guests, most of them have 10 plus, which makes sense because based on local regulations, a 4-bedroom house should be able to house 10 people. And we can at a maximum hold 12 people. And nobody charges extra person fees, which is also what we do. Cool. All right, so this is the market dashboard, and the main takeaways I have here in summary are increase in supply over the past year, a decrease in revenue in terms of year-over-year comparison, and that could be either based on the supply or kind of based on consumer sentiment, and that I'm happy with the cancellation policies and cleaning fees based on market metrics. The amenities are kind of unremarkable, but I need to think a little bit harder about pets. Probably not a decision I'll make today, but something that I'll have to research a little bit more in terms of liability, insurance, that kind of a thing. The fifth takeaway I have is that the minimum nightly stay that I have in the future should be fine. Either it's 3 plus, 4 plus, or 5 plus. And lastly, the main thing I wanted to look at today was the December nightly rates for those calendar days I have open, and it seems like the upper 300 range is still suitable. You know what? One more thing. Let me just double check. If I look at only the 5 to 6 bedroom range, let's see what those metrics look like. So let's go to my favorite graph here. In 5 to 6 bedroom range, the occupancy is definitely higher. For the December, ooh, that's interesting. So for the December weekends in question, the occupancy remains pretty low, like 15% here for this weekend. I don't even have to look if that was the weekend on my calendar. I know based on these bumps. Yeah, 15 to 20 at most for those early December weekends. Okay, that's interesting. I wonder if it's because like it's after Thanksgiving and people are done traveling. As far as booked pricing, the median booked price is in the 500s. Let's narrow it to just 5 because I believe 5 to 6 bedroom houses has some of these like really fancy pool houses. Yeah, even for estimated revenue, it's down across the board even when I take out the 4-bedroom houses. Occupancy is down, average daily rate is down, yep. Makes sense? All right, let's just do only 5-bedroom. All right, so focusing on just the 5-bedroom houses, $6,000 estimated revenue in the past 30 days. That's a bit more than what we made, but I know some of these houses have pools, and some of them like are right on the beach, so that's fine. Usually I don't make it to the top end of that range. So that December in question, yeah, it's like really pretty low occupancy for this section, and that might change with some last minute bookings, but right now, it's not looking super promising. Let's see what people actually booked for. The ones that did get booked, 500-ish. That's not bad. So, after I look at the market dashboard, then usually I go into dynamic pricing to review my calendar and the prices. So let's go there. And you can map the Airbnb and VRBO listings to be together, so that any changes you make on the parent listing, which for me is the Airbnb listing, it applies to both of them. And these are synced daily. So I've been playing with the minimum versus the minimum price and the base price here. And they have a pretty helpful feature in choosing your base price. I'm going to ignore their comment on my low historical occupancy. I think this was mainly a September issue because of the hurricane. So they're recommending I lower my base price to 500. Based on this map. If we do market-based, and I think my house has either high value amongst someone who is looking for 4 to 5 bedrooms, based on its amenities, its design, photos, it's suggesting 526 for base price, which is a little bit higher, and this would place us at 75th percentile of the market. If I said a medium, like an average, that's too low. Yeah, I think we're better than medium. What if we say we're an average 4, 5, 6 bedroom listing? Then it gives a market-based base price of $450, and this would be 50th percentile of the market. I think that's too low in terms of what we offer. We might not be quite 75th percentile. I think we're comfortably in the 60th-ish. So let's see if we put in, yeah, if we put in 515, that's 67th percentile. Okay, I'm gonna leave it for now and just look at the calendar and see what the algorithm would generate in terms of prices. On the right, you can see the listings health. I feel like the 7-day occupancy isn't super helpful in this market. It really just tells you for the upcoming weekend, is it a 2-night stay, 3-night stay, or 4-night stay? So there's not much reaction I can do to it because if no one's coming on the weekday, then no one's coming on the weekday. Even if I cut prices to like $100, right? And for whoever is coming, as long as the choices are reasonable, I still tend to have bookings that way. 30-day, I actually have it booked up more than the market. And if it's consistently blue like this, meaning I consistently have more occupancy than the market, then that might suggest I've priced too low. But I think this isn't commonly the case. And then 60-day, I'm comparable to the market. All right, so no crazy changes there. I changed these weekdays just to get a better discount. You know what? I'm thinking I might remove them. Based on what I just said, I don't think my few percent is going to change that. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to remove that. Let's see. Let's save and refresh and see what it comes out to. Okay, so it changes it to like slightly higher on 300. So instead of 300, it went to 306. Yeah, I'm fine with that slight change. And the other reason is like my 30-day is pretty healthily booked. So I get to do this. For November, I have Thanksgiving booked, but this weekend is still open. And you can see here, like Pricelabs has their own algorithm in determining based on the seasonality, what the demand in the market is, and my own personal adjustments, what price they recommend. And I think this seems like mid 400s seems very reasonable based on what's available in the market for the upcoming weeks. As we saw, the median booked price was upper 300s, considering 4, 5, and 6 bedrooms. And so I would still be getting some of that crowd, but perhaps the side that is looking for more space. And then for 5 to 6 bedroom, the median booked price is around 500. So I think this is comfortably in the middle. I'm not going to change it. On the upper left corner of each calendar day is a minimum night stay. And I think I keep it at minimum 3 nights on the weekends, except for these random orphan days. And I think I will continue to do that for these upcoming weekends. Not going to change that based on what we saw in the graphs. And then moving into December, it's into 500 range with the 4-night minimum. I don't think the 4-night minimum is the deterrent. I am actually wondering if these should be lower. Let's see what the algorithm is saying. The seasonality is negative, but the demand is positive. Yeah, I suppose the neighborhood occupancy is 20%. I'm a little skeptical because based on what I saw, I thought, to me, my impression was the demand is not high enough for those upcoming December weekends. So let's do one more thing. This is what I like to do if I'm like questioning the algorithm, is I go to Airbnb and browse as a person. The weekends in question was 16 to 17, and I had a 4-night minimum stay. I need to make sure I include that. I always include a child because there are listings that don't allow children. So let's say if it's 10 guests, what are my options here? And I like to just jostle the map a little bit so that it narrows down the number of homes. Like on the previous screen, I had 100-ish homes, and now it narrows it down. From what I see, there are quite a few options still on the market. And judging the prices, so $2,500 for us. This one's right on the beach. This one's farther in. This one's far but has a pool. This one's got a pool but it's farther with a pool. Close and with a pool. $2,600. And we're $2,500? Yeah, no, I disagree. I disagree with the algorithm. Let's try searching based on 12 guests. So now if we're doing 12 guests, it says there are not very many good places left. 24 homes available. And again, scrolling through the list, this one is pretty close. Why is it so cheap? All right, it's less exciting inside, but that's a few $100 difference. It's to 2,600, similar distance. Let's look at this one. Is more expensive, but it's closer. This one has a pool, but it's closer. So if I were a group of, say, 12 people with family, this is how I like to think about it. Pretend I'm a consumer. What decision would I make? This is a kind of a lame picture. Well, the inside is fine. 4,000, that's a lot. 3,000, it's a lot. You know what? This one has a pool and is cheaper, but it's farther away. This one's most comparable and has similar pricing to us. Let's see. What was their total? 2,600. So we're actually still less than that. This one is correctly more expensive. This is expensive. Has a pool. This one's more expensive, comparable. This one's really expensive, more expensive. All right, so actually, I take back what I said about the algorithm. I think it's actually quite reasonable. And of course, I could increase my chances of getting bookings by reducing the price, but then you also lose out on potential revenue if you go too far. So I think I will leave it for now, but I will remember to come back and check on this weekend. Let's actually try one more thing. Because I have this minimum of 4 nights, so if I reduce it to 2 nights, my listing should go away. Actually, most of the listings go away. And the only options are farther in from the beach. Okay, well, based on that, I'm not going to adjust the algorithm too much. Sometimes, as with all these algorithm type things, it might just be a setting that you have. At least what I've noticed, there might be a setting that I have that limits how my listing reacts to the market. For example, like an occupancy-based adjustment. So based on what I'm seeing today, I'm not going to change anything for December and November. Let's do one last quick thing and look at spring break-ish. January, February was always slow, so I'm going to skip that for now. Spring break is making the listed price go up to 1,000-ish. Jesus. Seems like a lot, and it is more than what other places have set it at, and it's more than the median booked price that we saw. Let's again browse as if we are booking for spring break week. What was spring break? March 7 to 13. Let's see. And actually someone booked it and they canceled. And I wonder if that has to do with the general market sentiment. Anyway, 7 to 13, there are, if it's a big group, there actually aren't that many options. And they are all priced quite, this is such a cute house. Wow, where's this? Oh, it's down there. Wow. That's fancy. 26,000. It's cute though. It's cute. I'll give them that. So, wow, this is cheap. These are cheaper. 7,000. Similar. Cheaper. More expensive. Okay, I think it's reasonable for now, but I'm gonna monitor this closely. I'd rather get a booking at slightly less and guarantee that than kind of leave it open for too long and prices sort of go down by algorithm anyway as you go further and further. So I might play around and reduce this week by like a set percentage from the algorithm to see if I don't get a booking from that. I'm gonna think on this one a little bit more, but this would be on my to-do list. And one more thing to keep in mind, I use Pricelabs because it's cheaper and I have grown used to it and I enjoy how their dashboard is laid out. I love the granularity down to the listing level. I can see how much a certain listing made in the past year and what their dynamic pricing strategy was, all of that. I know there are plenty of other software options as well. There's like Wheelhouse, AirDNA, Beyond Pricing. I'm just less familiar with those, but I'm sure you can do something very similar with that. This is not sponsored at all by Pricelabs. I wish they would. They should pay me. But anyway, like there are quite a few options if you're just looking for an upgrade compared to the smart pricing button on Airbnb. So this is kind of what I do every week. And obviously this took way longer. Usually it's about 10-15 minutes of my time. Part of it is just browsing on the Airbnb app for other listings as I'm walking around, like commuting to work and as I'm going to school run, that kind of a thing. So it doesn't actually take all that much time. In the beginning, when I was new to this and looking at pricing for that tiny house, which I have a previous video on, I was doing this every single day and it became kind of crazy. And I realized not all that much changes in a day. And so then I kind of went the complete opposite way and didn't review pricing for a while, which was also bad. And then I would get bookings that are either underpriced or not get bookings, and I would second guess myself and drive myself crazy. And so what I figured out was kind of build in a weekly habit of reviewing prices. And some weeks like this week, there's not a whole lot to do other than maybe think a little bit more about December and spring break week, and monitor the market more closely is my main takeaway there. Other weeks, there are some tweaks that I can actually do. There are actionable items that come out of this. And so I think it's important to stay on top of it. Even if you do nothing, you at least get the confidence that you already reviewed some things so that whatever the outcome is, you don't second guess and feel like you could have done better. And that's it. That's all I do for reviewing market metrics. Hope this was helpful to you in some way. And now that you've seen what I do with my listing, I would love to know what you like to do with your data analytics. As I've said in the beginning, like data is genuinely like super fascinating to me. So if you have a walkthrough video or if you want to share in the comments below, please let me know what you do so that I can learn and others watching the video and reading the comments can learn too.